The US-India trade talks may be entering into a new phase. Washington is now signaling some flexibility on a controversial tariff linked to Russian oil. The American Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that there is a path to ease tariffs on India. Bessent has signaled that the United States could consider rolling back the 25% punitive tariffs imposed on India for purchasing Russian crude oil. Now, Scott Bessent says that this is because New Delhi has cut back on Russian crude purchases. Now, speaking to Politico on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, the American Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the 25% tariffs imposed on India could eventually be removed. Now, the levy was introduced after India had increased imports of discounted Russian oil following the Ukraine war. He said that the measure was designed to pressurize New Delhi, and this has worked. The Bessent further said that the European Union has refrained from imposing tariffs on India because it wants to sign a big trade deal with New Delhi. The Bessent also has called Europe stupid for purchasing refined energy products from India. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has arrived in India for what she calls is going to be the mother of all deals. She is in Delhi to sign a free trade pact with India, and the deal will open the way for reduced tariffs on European cars and wine and an expanded market for Indian electronics, textiles and chemicals. But why has the US claimed that the tariffs were a success? Now, the US, remember, had imposed the tariffs in two tranches, while 25% duties were slapped on India over alleged trade imbalances. Another 25% were placed on India for buying Russian oil. The Bessent says that the purchases of the Russian oil by Indian refineries have collapsed in recent months, and he called this a clear success of US trade pressure. Before the war, Russian crude made up just 2 to 3% of India's refining mix. And after sanctions, that share rose to the high teens as discounts boosted refiner margins. But now Washington says that these flows are falling again. The issue is now tied to a bigger geopolitical push. The US Senator Lindsey Graham, in a post on social media platform X, has said that Donald Trump has cleared a bipartisan bill on Russian sanctions. The proposal will allow the United States to penalize countries including India, China and Brazil for buying discounted Russian oil. And Washington argues that the revenue helps finance Moscow's war in Ukraine. But there is a reality check from market data where market trackers offer a fairly cautionary note. Data from Kepler shows that India is still expected to import about 1.1 million to 1.3 million barrels per day of Russian oil this month. Imports dropped from about 2 million barrels per day to nearly 1.1 to 1.3 million by January this year. And India's crude oil imports from Russia have indeed fallen down nearly 40% from their mid-2025 peak. While the decline is significant, India still remains one of the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. And analysts say that Russian crude flows are hard to stop without direct government intervention. India also continues to source oil from West Asia, the United States and West Africa. Now, India has also pushed back, calling the US pressure to be unfair and unjustified. New Delhi insists that this is an adjustment and not a strategic shift. India maintains its energy policy is driven by national interest and affordability. As the world's third largest oil importer, India has emerged as the biggest buyer of Russian crude after Western nations had stepped away. And now with tariffs on the table and talks ongoing, the signal from Washington is fairly clear. Compliance could bring in relief, but for now though, the pressure stays.